it's always good to prepare. So yeah, like don't necessarily go into, and I know for a lot of women as well, we do want the best. We don't want there to be no hardship in our relationship. Do you get what I'm saying? But the reality is, it's not always going to be like that. So yeah.
How we complement each other. Oh my god, my voice coming on. Yep.
So next one, how we complement each other. And I thought this would be a good one because me and Joe, we're polar opposites in a lot of different ways. And what I love about us is the fact that we balance each other. So Joe's an extrovert, I'm an introvert, right? So when we first met, I had way less confidence. Joe had a lot of confidence. So yeah, and there's a lot of things that, and obviously Joe coming from a single parent home and me coming from a 2-parent home, there's a lot of things that can literally overlap and that we've taught each other. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think that's a beautiful thing. And I feel like with me, I've definitely taken a lot from Joe. He's supported me in a lot of things. He's been able to, you know, be like, oh, to get confidence, why don't you do this or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Just those little things like that. So I feel like if you're with someone in a marriage or relationship, you need to know who the other person is, because if they don't complement who you are very well, if you're not compatible, then it's going to be a problem. Like, you're not really going to be able to maneuver and be yourself around that person, and likewise as well. But yeah, what's your take on?
No, exactly what you just said. Exactly what you just said. The take on how we complement each other is just the same thing. You know, having different views can be complementary. Sometimes it can, you know, you have to focus on the complementary side. Sometimes it can be difficult because being different is not always a great thing. Yeah, it's you know what I mean? I guess fundamentally the values have to be the same. Yeah. I think that makes life a lot more easier. Yeah. I think coming into your family and seeing the level of structure and how things flow was a whole new experience for me, because I was like, oh wow, like this is how, this is what you're supposed to do. Oh, okay, this is how you handle things. So it was a great learning thing for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I was learning and enjoying the structure, enjoying the harmonious way your family dealt with things, you know what I mean? And try to emulate a lot of that in our home, you know what I mean? So yeah, it was really good. I think the complementing each other is about looking at the strengths or what's beautiful about the other person's side. You know what I mean? Because I know you've had conversations about in-laws and things of that nature, because that's the one thing I tell people all the time as well about, you know, how you can complement each other is in your personality. Yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? And protecting each other from each other's families is very, very key and very important. By way of how you talk about your partner to your family, or if you do at all. And, you know, keeping things in a structured way so everyone's calm. You know what I mean? Like, okay, if there's an issue, talk to me on any side. Yeah. And thank God it's not been an issue, you know what I mean? And having relationships with each other's family is very, very important. So I'm grateful that we've done that. Yeah. Built those relationships, free will as well, like, you know what I mean? And not putting pressure. So compliment-wise, our personalities, once developed, were easier to manage in so many different ways. Yeah. And just to touch on the in-laws thing, I know it's going slightly off topic, but I definitely feel like in terms of the in-laws, like the relationships that have been created have been very genuine as well. And I feel like because of who I am, and I know you said this before, like your mum is definitely taken to me like quite well as well, because I'm not a loud, you know, shouty, gra kind of person. So I know, and the thing is as well, your mum isn't like that at all. So even in that sense, like me and your mum, or me and people in your family complement each other very well, and vice versa. Do you know what I mean? When you come around my family, it's very like everyone's, even like I remember one time you went at a family function, everyone was like, oh, where's Joe, man? We missed the good vibes. And do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely about complimenting each other, but complimenting each other's families as well. Yeah, that's why I brought the in-laws. I'm like, when you marry into a family, make no mistake. Exactly, you marry everybody. You marry everybody's. Make no mistake about that. Don't think it's just you soon. You could do that route, but it's long. Yeah. It's long. It's not fruitful. It's not something that's going to empower anyone. Yeah. That's the next on the list. Okay, so communication. Communication. They need to do, like, see this, this should be a whole course mandatory before marriage. It should be in, because communication is two-part. No, I'm just talking about just if you plan on getting married. Oh, okay. Refining that. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Into comprehension. Yeah. And active listening. Yeah. That's how I break down communication in my head. Comprehension and active listening. I need to listen actively with my focus not look on my phone, not get distracted by things around me, because then I'm not active listening. I'm going to miss a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
And then wonder why it's a problem down the line.
Yeah.
Active listening stops a lot of problem down the line, because you might not catch everything, so it makes sense just to actively listen. And comprehension, meaning based on my point of reference, what do I understand? Do I ask questions? Do I engage? And don't leave the conversation until there's an agreement that I've understood, or the other person's understood.
Yeah.
Don't assume that you understand. Don't think you understand. Come to an agreement that, oh, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important. So communication is key in that sense too.
No, definitely. I think in our experience, communication at the beginning of our relationship wasn't the greatest, and we've definitely worked on it. Like, there'll be times when
I think you can get better when we got married. I think prior to that it was just frustrating trying to understand where we misunderstand, where we and most of it was just frustration from trying to like, how come did you say that? I don't remember you saying that. And, and I'm like, a lot of that stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, back to active listening. You know what I mean? And try to listen and comprehend and try and make sure I understand. Or don't talk while I'm on my way out or when I'm upstairs. No, get in front of you and talk. Because if I don't do that, information will get missed out. And learning not to get frustrated at all. Because it can be frustrating. But learning not to be frustrated, be patient. Like, don't worry, you didn't understand. Okay, maybe you didn't hear me. Rather than me thinking I said it,
and to blame you,
and blame you
weren't
listening,
paying attention,
it's not
or you
conducive.
Forgot, or
it's better for me to say, you know what, there's a possibility that I may not have articulated myself properly, rather than you didn't listen.
Definitely.
Being on the same team is very important. So communication, definitely learn to chat to each other properly, because Lord have mercy, it can cut down so much kerfuffling and so much, as we say in Africa, wahala. It can cut down so much. Just communicating, just active listening, talking. But that comes to you steadying your ego too.
No, definitely.
Steady your ego, relax yourself. Like, it's not an attack because your partner's telling you something. You can't trust someone to have a baby with them, marry them, but when they start talking, you're in defense mode.
I know.
Certain things just don't make sense. Like, you have to sit there and be like, is what I'm doing making sense? And let me put myself in that person's shoes. Remember, like, people, you don't experience you. Other people do. So you may not like what people are experiencing from you. Experience and fact are different, but in the communication, active listening, compassion, patience, wanting to be on your side constantly is very important in terms of, okay, you know, maybe I just, possibly me, my memory, I couldn't have said. And then just explain it there and then. All this frustration and all that stuff don't make no sense. Control yourself and relax and try to understand what is the best way for me to go about it. Reviewing yourself in an honest way, not being afraid to self-critique yourself when you've not done things correctly, versus self-critique and beating yourself up are two different things. You know, don't beat yourself up and just focus on the negative thing you've done. Self-critique is an analysis. Okay, she didn't hear what I was saying, but she might have listened. I might have been chatting nonsense. Have I even checked into that? Question your own position before you start to even question someone else's. So communication is a powerful tool if demonstrated with the absolute top form of maturity.
No, 100%. And one quick thing I'll just mention before we move on is a way in which our communication improved over the years was, if we're having a conversation, like, phones are down, we're not, you know, scrolling through your phone and trying to talk to the person, because there's no way you're understanding or taking in or actively
I can't message and talk anyway, so
I know, innit?
I need to do one thing at a time.
So even with that as well, like, I remember times when you'll be doing that and I'll still be talking to you and I'll be like, okay, and then I'll walk out, and then when I ask you, oh, did you'd be like, no, when was this? And you'd be like, I was on my phone, and then I'll be like, oh, so you can't literally do that and do. So I'll be like, okay, cool, when you finish, I just need to tell you something, that kind of thing. So it's literally doing the active work of, do you know what I mean? The active listening, but then the active work of also knowing how your partner listens, or what's good or not good for them to kind of be able to communicate in the most effective way.
That's true.
Okay, so moving on. So I thought I'd put together 5 things Nancy has learned and how she's applied it, right? So throughout the years, the first thing is, and it's funny because we just spoke about, always have effective communication. And I've learned this because I saw how it would affect our relationship when we didn't have effective communication, and how things would just, you know, go so wrong. And I'm like, listen, like, when I realised that, I knew that, no, this has to improve. Like, this, we have to work on this, because I understood that, like, so many marriages and relationships break down because of lack of effective communication. So I was like, okay, cool. When we worked on it, and we saw the improvements, I was like, no, this definitely has to be, you know, one of the bricks that kind of stay there. And one of the things that stay active all the time. And as you know, as much as possible, like, we try not to get it, we don't get it wrong as much as we used to, but we've definitely come to a point, and even now as well, we're good in terms of, if we do misunderstand each other, we understand that it's a thing of, oh, maybe that person was, maybe I, do you know what I mean? So we don't go in each other, like, say, oh, you weren't listening, this, that, or you forgot, or whatever. Yeah, it's all long. So the second one for me is, Joe's not my enemy, we're a team. And I know this sounds a bit extreme, but in my head at the time, I used to think, oh, why is he, like, not always against me, but kind of like opposing? And then I realised that it's not an opposition. It's kind of like, that's his way of either the articulation of support, or even like criticising in order to help, not criticising, you know, when you kind of ask someone questions to help them kind of make their decision. But I just found that maybe the way you weren't doing it wasn't the right thing for me as well. And then there was a lot of times when I used to blame you for just like little things, so I had to stop doing that, because I was like, listen, this isn't good for, like, it's just not good for our marriage at all. And then obviously us being a team as well is, I have my roles, he has his roles, he's due. As long as we know, like, I'm on the same page, things, you know, were getting better. And I realised that when I applied that, I was a lot like more happy and stuff, even though I implemented happiness with myself at first. But in terms of just in our marriage, like, I realised that I can't have that stance. Like, why am I feeling like my husband is, you know, ops? Basically, you're not ops at certain times. But yeah, so that one I knew I definitely had to work on. Number 3, learning and self-development. And this one, I should have even highlighted this one in red and underlined it and put a circle around it, and little asterisks is on the side, because it's so, no, trust me, it's so important. And I remember, you know, you saying at the beginning of our relationship and marriage, it's been that long, I can't remember certain things, but a long time ago, Sha, like, you'll be like, oh, you know, self-development is good, this, that, and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what, it's true, Sha, let me, you know, like, the thing is, I'm a graduate, so I'm not it's always good to keep self-development. And then that's one thing, like, I loved when I met Joe, is because he always he recommended me books, and I'd read them, and I'm like, right, this book actually helped me in my life. So I'm just like, self-development, learning, studying, reading, you know, watching things on YouTube of how you can learn is so important. And as I said earlier on, when you do these things, you're able to literally go through like the trials and tribulations, because you're in a certain space to be able to go through them. Do you get what I'm saying? So for example, like, if you're at peace, yeah, you see the world in such a different perspective. Like, you're not angry all the time, you're not stressed, you're not this, you're not that, you're like, I just want peace, whatever will get peace. That doesn't mean like you succumb to certain things. No, you know how to approach things, you know how to take things in, you know how to treat people.
You prioritise your mental health. That's what peace is about. It's prioritising your 100%. Own mental state. So I totally understand. Yeah, because I know when I didn't do that, my mental health was all over the gaff, and I thought, this isn't life. So no, it's true. You got to prioritise.
Yeah. So self-development. So was you going to say something?
No. It's like, yeah. No, I'm just voicing your point, like, why self-development is key. You're protecting your mental health, and you said peace. Makes sense. Yeah,
definitely. So number 4 for me, I've had to put down, know who Joe is as a person. And I know, you know, this is like, people probably think, oh, do you not know who your husband is? However,
you never know who each other is for a long time. Like,
for a long time.
Bro, you've been married for 20 years. Don't think you know someone. Why else can people get divorced 30 years in a relationship? Since you know each other. Don't ever get into that state of cockiness and think because you've been with someone day and that you know them. No, you don't. It's a constant, human beings are a constant, unpredictable organism that is adapting. Tomorrow I might become Muslim. And I'm going to have to be okay with that, because I signed those papers that whatever we go or Christian, or wherever my life journey takes me. Like, so don't think. There's certain things I would have said, hell no, that I embrace today. Same
thing. Same here, to be honest.
Yeah, nah, man. I totally understand why you put that there.
Yeah, so, I totally understand that. Yeah, and like, because, and you know, sometimes when you first meet someone, like, you see their exterior and you think you know completely what that person's about, but really there's so many layers to individuals that you may not even know. It's constantly changing and evolving. You may not even know 5, 10, 15 years down the line. As long as that person is comfortable enough to share it with you, and as long as, you know, you create that space for them, I feel like knowing who they are, so you know how to maneuver as well. Because if you know someone has, for example, a trauma about something, you're not going to be bringing it up, because obviously you don't want that trauma to be triggered. You don't want to hurt that person. So know who your spouse is, your husband is, or your wife is. That includes
like love language, all of that stuff. That includes what makes them tick and things like that nature. And you need to remember that if you're in conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Conflict is in. Do you want to expand on it?
So now if you're in conflict, you say your partner does something that you don't like.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on the action, the consequence, go back to the event and then go back to what you know of this person versus just fixating on the event. Because say you might have lied about something, for example. Like let's just assume you lied about something.
Yeah.
A lot of times people have already programmed themselves to hate lying.
Yeah.
So they give no other room but I hate lying. And because I hate lying, I'm gonna attack you for doing it. I'm gonna feel righteous in treating you anyhow because you've done something you know I hate. That's not growth, that's not maturity. So instead of saying to myself I hate lying, here's another perspective. This person's lying. I wonder what's made them feel insecure to lie. I wonder if my behavior has made them feel not comfortable to tell me the truth. I wonder where could I have made them more comfortable to tell me the truth, or is it just within themselves?
Yeah, that's
in general. That has nothing to do with what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and then that opens possibility of conversation. Ain't nothing more powerful in any relationship, whether it be friendship, marriage, different things of that nature, where people can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
If someone's lying, it's because they don't feel safe with you to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So instead of me trying to assassinate your character and call you a liar and attack you, all that person do is go more and more into themselves and find other effective ways to lie.
They put more barriers and
they put more barriers up.
Yeah.
So that sensitivity level of where people are coming from is what I'm talking about. It's just recognizing sensitivity instead of saying, why are you lying to me? And because my ego has been rattled, I could take another approach and be like, listen, you don't need to lie. What is it? We can work through, we can talk.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, I may have created a space for you to feel comfortable to, you know, you can talk to me about it. The reason why people lie is fear of judgment.
That's true.
So if that means they look at you as someone who could potentially judge them.
Exactly.
So things that you might have felt comfortable with your whole life may not work for your marriage or work for you moving forward. Just because you've been one way forever doesn't mean you have to stay that way. That's why personal development is something I've always injected into my relationships. Like, let's keep growing. We can't be the same individuals because we're going to have the same problems.
Yeah, no, that's true. And just to touch back on that personal development one, for me, I feel like if I didn't grow and personally develop, we probably wouldn't have made it. Do you know what I mean? Both of us.
We both would have had to grow and develop. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work.
It's like growth and develop. It's inevitable. It has to happen, unless if you don't want this to fall apart.
Because people get comfortable in what they like, what they don't like, and they fall into the same problems and have the same experiences.
Exactly.
So it means that we don't have the same problems we had 2 years ago.
Yeah,
no, we don't. It'll be a new situation that we have to level up to fix, and we keep doing that.
Exactly.
So that's what makes marriage fun to be into. Is like, okay, cool. We just need to adjust. Yeah. You know what I mean? And not look at things from a critique point. You know, when you're emotionally intelligent, talk about maturity and growing up. You know, every time someone does something, it's like, oh, this person's always doing this. Yeah. Why are they always doing this? Like, they know better. And you go into this rage of unconsciousness and you start now to make the person your ops instead of like, this person hasn't conquered this yet. Be a part of the solution, not be part of the world that's telling them that they're not good enough and rare. That's where the you know, your number 5 one comes into. Yeah,
and then people start resenting each other as well.
Yeah, and then all this poison. Yeah. It just becomes poison, you know what I mean? Well, yeah, it goes into number 5 actually.
Yeah, oh yeah, true. So my number 5 one, no matter what we are going through, we can get through it. And with us, we've been through so much, good and bad. So it's a thing of